So, a few house cleaning items, even though we have sent this out in an email, and somebody just called me and said it's supposed to snow again tomorrow.
Tonight.
Yeah, but it's gonna be warm.
I mean,
It's supposed to clear by, it'll clear by evening tomorrow.
Well,
We're sick of it.
unless the higher ed is closed, do not watch the Virginia Highlands Community College schedule, because we could have had that meeting last week. It was cold, but the roads were not bad. So do not watch Virginia Highlands Community College schedule. I'm gonna say it one more time. Do not watch Virginia Highlands Community College schedule. Watch the Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator Facebook page. Does anybody in the room not have Facebook? Okay, so watch the Facebook page if, we'll decide if the roads are bad. But, our friend David Matlock is going to welcome you. I want you all to thank him very much because the incubator had a 30,000 square foot flood, and we are under reconstruction, and had it not been for Mr. Matlock, I'm not exactly sure where we've been able to have this business plan challenge, but he has graciously offered his services so that we will continue our challenge and hopefully finish on schedule. So without further ado.
What Kathy doesn't realize is there's really nothing free in life.
Is what?
There's really nothing free in life.
Oh, yeah.
I learned that a long time ago. Well, my name is David Matlock, and I am the new executive director here. I just wanted to say welcome, and we're glad we could accommodate you. Our goal is to support education and economic development throughout all of Southwest Virginia, and this definitely fits right inside our wheelhouse, and I'm excited that tonight and tomorrow night, and then for a couple more Tuesdays leading up to your end of conclusion of your classes, we get to help you out. So welcome. Kathy did talk about, watching the websites and the news and all that. Virginia Highlands Community College, their schedule is totally different from ours. This is a state agency, and even though we're all on the same campus, different rules, different regulations. Of course, you can follow her Facebook, as she said. If we close for some reason, it would say the Higher Education Center. And also, it's all on our website. But it takes a little bit more for us to shut down just because of conference services. I just want to just give you a quick commercial, and then I'll get out of your way. I will tell you that I spent a 25-year career in administration, most recently as the Vice President of Virginia Highlands Community College, and loved my time there and thought I'd retire there, but then this opportunity came up, and I will tell you, I didn't think it could get better, but it has. And I love it here, and I think this will be a good place for me to spend that back third of my career. But anyway, some exciting things going on here. A lot of people say, well, what's happening at the Southwest Virginia Higher Education Center? A couple really cool things are happening. One, we're here to support economic development through workforce development and workforce training. And we just recently started a nurse practitioner program through King University. And it's a family nurse practitioner. The next cohort is probably going to be a pediatric nurse practitioner. Right across the hall down here on your right, we have the VCU. VCU has the #1 ranked nurse anesthesiology program. Now I'm going to butcher the word, but it's called a nurse anesthetist. That's close. But for short, we call it a CRNA. And VCU has the #1 program in the nation. And they have 2 off-site locations. One is in Roanoke, and one is here in Southwest Virginia, right across the hall. We graduate 8 to 10 CRNAs every year. And these are people coming right out making $150,000 with no experience, and that's putting some good tax dollars back into the economy. We also have the BSN program, but we also have programs through UVA-Wise, through Virginia Tech. I've got some exciting announcements you'll hear about in the near future. We've put a couple deals together with ETSU and King University to come on as full partners, so that'll give us 7 full partners, 8 counting Emily Henry. So hopefully you'll hear more and more about what we're going to call guided pathways. So students in middle school and elementary school all across our region now can come to their local community college and then transfer here and not have to leave the area. I like to tell people they could stay here and go far. And hopefully for adults, it's a great opportunity for adults to seek higher education. That's one side of our business. The other side is conference services to host events like this. Tonight we have people from the master gardeners, to beekeepers, to FFA people, so they're all over the place. So we're all about supporting education and supporting workforce development here in Southwest Virginia. Well, I'm excited about what you're doing. I'm on the IDA for Washington County. I'm also a former executive on the executive board or whatever they call us with the chamber. So I've been involved in some of this. I know the IDA, we put up some money, $5,000 or $10,000, $5,000 to help support the winning. So I look forward to the breakfast next month when we announce the winner. But here's what you got to understand. Regardless of who gets announced as a winner, by participating in this and hanging out with the Washington County Chamber of Commerce, everybody's a winner. All right, so I'll shut up because you didn't come here tonight to listen to me. You come here to listen to people that have a whole lot more to say that's going to benefit you much more than I can ever. So welcome to the Southwest Virginia Higher Education Center. If we can ever help you with any educational or conference needs, please let me know. Again, David Matlock. Okay? All right. Well, if you've never had Susan Seymour's cooking up there, I weighed 142 pounds when I met her. And as you can see, I weigh about 65 more pounds than that now. Greatest cook in Southwest Virginia. Listen, y'all have samples y'all like for me to try.
Thanks, David.
Thank
Okay,
you.
one more thing, if you did not sign in, you won't get credit, so please make sure you have signed in. And February the 26th is the date for the business plans to be turned in. Okay?
To the Chamber of Commerce.
To the Chamber of Commerce office, 3 copies. February 26th, and you turn in 3 hard copies to the Chamber of Commerce office by 5 o'clock.
Do you want us to have any on that last one?
No, we don't want anything on a flash drive because we hand deliver hard copies and they go out of town. The judges aren't here, they don't know your name or won't recognize you. And so we have to actually hand deliver hard copies, so flash drives aren't, you know, what they, I don't. We always said hard copies, right?
Yes.
Okay.
You did, you said the splash drives, and I thought maybe you wanted them.
And 3 copies.
3 copies. And I'm sorry, you had to
We, because of the snow, we've had to cancel some, appointments that we were working with people who were helping us with the business plan. But anyway, you can suspend, what, 2 days?
No, we can't. We have a deadline on the judges, and we have a deadline, the legislators are gonna be at the chamber breakfast to help us, make the announcements. And so that's kind of why we pushed having the, business plan meetings back to back to today and tomorrow. We really can't extend it past our, am I speaking out of turn? We can't extend it past the chamber breakfast, which is the 17th. And we have to give those judges a week, if you can imagine.
Keep in mind, the judges are not local, so we
Right.
have to make arrangements to get them. They're like 2 and 3 hours away. So we got to get them time to look at it. And you don't want them rushed, right? You want them to look at these fairly and
We've not been
concisely.
able to get to pertinent people to help us with our plan, and it's harder, to do it right, and so that you can be proud of what we're doing.
Well, you've
In
had,
just a day,
we have to go by these guidelines. It was in the guidelines that you signed on. I'm sorry, but that's the only thing we had to go by.
That's why we said early on, the very first meeting, we said, don't delay in doing your business plan, because this happens every year, and what really should happen, and I know that it's very difficult to write one, because I sat down and started trying to write one with a fake company just to see, what the difficulty was to put that together. And so, there's a business plan outline that I think we talked to you all about that's on our website, and I don't know if there are other outlines on other websites, but honestly, what the professionals that you're gonna be meeting with are really supposed to be doing is kind of an editing purpose, because they don't really know how to write your business plan. You're the one that has the business in your head, so they're really for editing purposes, and honestly, you probably shouldn't even be meeting with them before you have your idea on paper anyway. You know what I mean?
Well, no, we did that,
Okay.
but I'm just, you know.
Are you having difficulty meeting with one of the folks on the, that's supposed to help?
No, well, for instance, like I have meetings with people from Washington County in the school system. Well, they're not in the offices when the schools are not in. They don't go in. And with Virginia Community College, they're not in their offices. They're not allowed to be. So it was, you know, it just, it would, what we learned today, when we were able to meet with the gentleman we met with, we would have probably saved several hours of work that we didn't have to do. And that, you know, when you want to do something right, you want it to be,
Right.
since it's such a short time, you want to do your best, but you know you're not going to, you know, get everything in. But it would save us several hours of work. That's all I'm saying.
Well, and, you know, we're all a resource, so you come, I mean, if you want us to help critique or edit, or Sandy, or Natasha, or Carl, you know, we make Carl drive down here for 6 or 8 hours just to be here with us. But, you know, even though the incubator was flooded, all of our offices are operational, and we have small meeting space available, but, you know, we're still available to help with that. But People Incorporated is a great resource, and Natasha's gonna take over now. Maybe she can help answer some more questions.
I hope so. I see a lot of really familiar faces out there, so, greetings to those of you I don't know, and it's nice to see all of the new faces too. As Kathy said, I work for People Incorporated. I'm a senior business trainer and marketing coordinator, which is a lot of words. And I used to keep my, business card on my desk so that I could see it up close, so as to know exactly what my title was when somebody called me on the phone. Clicker doesn't work, that's okay. People Incorporated has approximately 40 programs, everything from housing and homelessness prevention to Head Start, to my department, Community Economic Development. And this is a screenshot of our webpage. This is our service area. We serve a good portion of Southwest Virginia, but basically all of Southwest Virginia. And now this corner up here up north. I've never been up here though, so I'm gonna have to go up there one of these days. But we do have offices up there.
You're doing this directly from the internet, right? You didn't save it on the computer?
No.
That's what it is.
Oh.
You're not in full view, that's why that won't work.
Well, I don't know how to do
Okay.
that. It's fine. I can push the button. Or you can, it doesn't matter. If you're not on our Facebook page, by all means, find us, look us up on Facebook. We have a very active Facebook page. I put all our trainings on there. We have a lot of upcoming trainings this spring. We give away money on a regular basis. We do these business challenges, and we also help people get their businesses on the map. Once you have a business, what's the easiest way for people to find it? On the internet. So that's one of the things we do. We do business loans, up to $250,000. More than that, potentially, if you have a tourism-based business in the 9th Congressional District area. But we can do all sorts of things to help your business grow financially. This is our 9th District Development Fund page, except it's not. I built this new web page a couple of weeks ago, but this is a screenshot of the old one. If you're looking at a business that is tied to the tourism industry, you might want to look into that. It's a great source of funding and also of just support and networking. We have consumer lending. We find that a lot of people are getting trapped in this world of predatory lending. We've really found lately that there are a lot of people out there who are willing to lend you some money at approximately 400% interest compounding monthly. And that sounds like a joke, except it's not. We recently had a fellow who had a loan that compounded daily at 1.96%. Who was it with?
Some internet bank out of Connecticut. They've made them illegal in many states, but unfortunately, these guys know how to find their clientele. So
if you find yourself in an unfortunate position with a, you know, a pawn shop or a title pawn or whatever, payday lender, please come see us. If you need help getting your credit cards consolidated, we can help with those things. We also have the magical unicorn money. People talk about grants. There's no such thing as grants. I'm so sorry, the grants are all gone. The grants that exist now are things like this Business Challenge and this IDA program, it's Virginia Individual Development Accounts. Basically, for qualifying population, and there's like an income qualifier. You have to be below so much, but you have to actually have income. For every $1 you save, IDA adds $2, and you come out at the end with $3 for your one, to buy your first house, to send you or an immediate family member to school, or to start your own business. So, and then here's what I do, training and technical assistance. Some of you have been in my office. By the way, if you come looking for me, my office has moved. I'm up at the front door now because I felt like I didn't get to see enough people as they came in the door. So I'm not back in the corner anymore. These are some workshops we're doing this spring. We're doing some business basics, credit and budgeting, marketing, customer service. Actually, there's a laundry list that aren't on there, but they're all on our Eventbrite. So if there's something that we can help you with, if there's not a training that addresses it, come see me and we'll work through it together. All right, now, the main purpose for which I'm here today. We're going to talk about credit and financing your business. So essentially, as my slide here says, there are two ways to finance your business. One is credit, the other is equity. Equity is money you already own. Maybe it's under your mattress, maybe it's in your bank, maybe it's the amount that you have paid down on your house so that it's free and clear now. There are a lot of ways to look at it. Equity financing comes down to personal savings, friends or relatives, angel investors. I caution all of you to double think an angel investor, not always a bad choice, but ask yourself if you're going into business so that you can make the rules and be your own boss. If that's the case, you may want to think through the prospect of an angel investor. That angel investor may want to have more say-so than you're comfortable with in what your business does and where it goes. And crowdsource funding, which, see this guy right here? If there's something you want to know about crowdsource funding, we learned pretty much everything from him, and you can too. Now, here's the thing. Why would you invest your own money in a business? Well, your money's yours already. There's no interest to be paid on what you already own. So it's a lot less expensive. Furthermore, if you go in to see a loan officer and you say, well, I'm investing $10,000, but I need $100,000, he sees that you've got skin in the game. Yes, it's 1/10 of what you're asking him to invest, but maybe it's all you have. He sees that you've put yourself out there. You are willing to bet your shirt, as they say. So you're more likely to get a loan if you need one. And frankly, businesses that fail are undercapitalized. A business that has adequate equity is more likely to succeed. So,
Now you tell me.
I'm pretty sure you've seen
That
this
just
whole thing
came out.
before.
Carry on.
So let's talk about some of these financing. You know, if you're going to use credit to finance your business, let's talk about some of the words you're going to see, some of the terms you're going to come across. Line of credit. Line of credit is a short-term amount of money, and it can be used to cover things that you need to take care of right now, but it generally has a really short lifespan. It has kind of died down a lot in the last few years. What happened was when America's financial situation kind of tumbled there a few years ago, banks called these in. It was a little harder to get a line of credit. So, credit cards. Well, some people say, oh, credit cards are bad, credit cards are terrible. Not true. Credit cards can be bad or can be terrible. In the main, credit cards are a way for you to, one, track your spending. Because every credit card comes with built-in paperwork. You know, they tell you what you've spent. They have an online or a paper form that they send you every month that details where every dime of your money's going. They can also be absolutely free money for 28 days. Because if you pay that credit card off before it comes due, there will be no interest charged. And watch, because I say 28 days, but that's one of the things that can vary in a credit card is how long your interest-free time is and what it covers. But it's great for tracking everyday expenses and covering small items. Supplier's credit. Somebody who was in one of these one time had a great story about supplier's credit. Was able to get, yes, it was
It
you.
wasn't me, but
No,
it was Terry Ann, and, well,
Okay.
we did it last year with her, where you thought it was after pay to the end of the season.
right, so sometimes your suppliers will let you have their product on speculation that you're gonna make enough money to be able to pay them back at the end of a set period of time. Could be 30 days, could be a whole year. Not guaranteed, but definitely worth asking.
For seasonal business, see, they can make the kayaks in the winter, they don't really have a need for them.
Right.
But that gives them a commitment to be manufacturing, and then, you pay them after you've rented them all season.
So you've kept people at work in the kayak factory, and then you've got your product that you need come spring.
Right. And you have to pay all your money off.
Always worth looking into that. Business term loans, these are what you think of when you hear the word loan. A business term loan is a quantity of money set up to be paid back in X installments of X dollars a piece over X amount of time. So that's kind of the standard loan. Leasing, some businesses find it is tax-wise or just overall more expedient and inexpensive to lease certain things. My husband and I used to be responsible for transporting the symphony. We did so approximately 3 times a year. There was absolutely no reason on earth for us to own a box truck. But in order to transport the symphony, we did lease one for the occasion. So sometimes there will be items that you can lease effectively. They provide a more flexible way for you to look at the financing for those items. Government programs. There are a lot of government programs to support small businesses. Some of them in an outright financial sense, like the IDAs and that sort of thing. Some of them will help you to get to that point, like the SBA, Small Business Administration. So your sources of financing, credit cards are expensive, and your limits can be cut unexpectedly. The fact that you have a $10,000 credit card today does not mean you always will. It could very well be cut. And they're real risky because it kind of relies on you counting your chickens before they're hatched when you're spending money that you hope to make in the next 30 days so you don't have to pay a high interest rate on it. Personal savings. Personal savings have zero risk. It's your money. They don't cost you anything unless you're pulling it out of a 401k or something. But it's low risk, low expense. Do not use all of your savings to start a business because the day that you do, your chimney will get stopped up, your washing machine will quit, your car will need a transmission, and your child will need braces. To be perfectly honest, you really cannot lose your cushion, no matter how marvelous your dream is. Bank financing. Bank financing can be a great lower cost option. The equity requirements vary, but they are generally pretty considerable. Banks may demand that you have X credit score. They may require that your equity be of a certain type. So it can be harder to get. Small Business Administration Guarantee Loans. These are loans where the equity is assisted. They are low cost. They have longer terms, 10 years I want to say. The reduced equity requirements make it easier for the bank to take what you have as collateral. And there are lots of different plans so that, maybe you have real estate, maybe you have equipment, maybe you need working capital, maybe you need those things. And then there are nonprofit community lenders. People Incorporated is one. There are also, I don't think so much out this way, in this part of the country, but out west there are tribal lenders and various other configurations of community lenders, but People Incorporated is a community lender. So, show of hands. How many of you know your credit score right now? Awesome, that's a bunch. That's great. Everybody in here should know their credit score. You really should know your credit score. You should know what's on your credit report. Well, how do I find out? People come to my office and say, I've never seen my credit report. Isn't that hard to get? Won't that ruin my credit if I get that? How much is it going to cost me to look at my credit report? And how are they using this? What does it say? It's not a state secret. You can and should know every word that's on your credit report. There's no way to say how often you should look at it, but the minimum is quarterly. So let's talk about how you get your credit report. You do not have to pay anyone. There are no little singing iguanas or handsome foreigners with guitars. Because those people will charge you money. It's tragic, because the guy with the guitar, I keep hoping he'll show up at my front door with my credit report, but whatever. Annualcreditreport.com. The government says that you, as a citizen, have the right, once per year, to look at each of your 3 major credit reports for free and know exactly what's on them.
So would
So-
you, I'm probably.
No, go ahead.
Well, I go TransUnion 1 quarter and then Experian.
You're ahead of me on this.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, and so when you go to this annualcreditreport.com, you won't get a credit score unless you somehow pay for it or something like that. Don't. But it will give you your official government stamped credit report. Your secret lifetime file there. And here's the thing, some of you are going to have trouble getting it. Be prepared to make a copy of your driver's license and all the stuff it asks for and mail it in. Because if you've moved within the past 2 years, if you maybe don't know who the underwriter is on your student loan from 1974, you may have trouble getting annual credit report to just spit out your credit report for you. That's okay. You can write and get it. As Eva said, here's what I recommend you all do. You have 3, TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. Get one. It's got all the names and phone numbers and addresses of your creditors on it. Tells everything. Look at it very carefully. Make sure all the information is correct. Work on whatever needs working on. Call some folks, make payment arrangements with them. Call some folks and tell them that they need to get whatever this is that's a false thing off your credit report. Work on it for a few months. 4 months later, go back and get the next one. Whichever, if you got TransUnion the first time, get Equifax. Same thing. Look it over. Check it for mistakes. Find ways to fix the problems. Work on it for 4 months. Get that last one. By now, you've got an 820 credit report or a credit score, and you don't have a whole lot to do, but you do need to check that 3rd one. 4 months later, you're back around to the top. So every quarter, you're seeing a credit report with your name on it. You know what's there. You know what other people are seeing when they look you up. If you cannot get this to work and you do not want to wait, or if you're like me and you have to know how much making a car payment affected your credit score this week, or if you just want the satisfaction of the number, this Credit Karma is absolutely free. They now have this cool little app that you can download to your phone. So you can, when everybody else is checking Facebook, you can check your credit score. There's a lot of information there. You can also get your credit report. It is somewhat less official looking, but it's there, and it has all that same information with the phone numbers and the addresses of your creditors who you might need to contact. So, what's a credit report look like? It looks like that piece of paper I handed you. It has your name and any other names that you have publicly used. It has your address and any other addresses that you've had bills at or whatever. It has everything you've bought on a payment plan. It may have medical things on there, however, it does not have details about what those things are. It's important for you to understand not only what is on a credit report, but what isn't. So what is not on there is information regarding your race, religion, your medical history. Now here's a funny one. You may see a lot of medical stuff on your credit report because hospitals and doctors do not work for free. They want money. They want all the money, in fact. So you may have things listed on there that are medical, but there will be no whys or whats. Just the fact that you owe some money or did owe some money. Political affiliation. Nobody can find out what party you voted for by your credit report. We will not know. People come to me all the time. They say, well, you can see how much I got in the bank. You've got my credit report. No, that's not part of your credit report. That's your private business. Or any other information that's not directly related to the credit. That's why I provided you with this sample. I want you all to see kind of what to expect when you look at a credit report. And if you flip that over, it will tell you what each of those items, they're kind of enumerated A, B, C, D. And then on the back, it kind of lists what they are and where they come from. So, how can your credit report be used? Well, it can be used, of course, for credit approval. You know, that's how they take your credit report and they run the numbers and they do statistical magic and they decide what your term and interest rate are going to be when you ask for credit. It can, and often is, in our modern era, used for employment purposes. However, your employer or your potential employer doesn't need to get your permission. And the credit report they see will be an abbreviated version. They also use your credit report to underwrite your insurance. The idea being, if you are a person who's never made a late payment with an 800 and some odd credit score, you're probably a decent insurance risk as well. Now, you're probably prudent in all your habits. Professional licensure. Some people have jobs that require them to be bonded or have some sort of special insurance. If you're going into people's houses or working with children or the courts or yada yada, you may need to provide your credit report in order to be bonded. The IRS will ask for your credit report so that they can set up a payment plan if you owe back taxes, etc. Occasionally, it's rare, but it happens that there will be a court order or a subpoena that requires your credit report, or for review or collections. Now, a word of warning here. If you have a good credit score, you already know this. If you have a kid in college, you already know this. When they review your credit score, your credit report, you start getting those offers in the mail. You've been pre-approved. Folks, nobody needs a $10,000 credit card at a 28% interest rate. So be careful about those. Don't take anything just because it's being offered. Make sure you want it and that you read the small print. So how does the credit bureau, the three main credit bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, where do they get that information? Well, they collect it. It comes from a variety of sources, like anything. So they get it from you. You know how when down in the mall they're giving away umbrellas on a rainy day if you'll apply for a belt card? Y'all ever, yeah, I'm good for that one. I'll do anything for an umbrella. So when you ask for credit, the information that you put in that application goes to the credit bureau. Inquiries when you're car shopping. You know that thing, that pre-sale slip that they make you fill out when you go shopping for a car? Man, they shoot that thing all over the world. It goes to about 12 different banks. And so all of them pull your credit. Same thing with bank loans. There are two kinds of inquiries. You have internal inquiries and external inquiries. Internal means that you are a creditor, an individual, asks for your credit record to look at it. External is more like when they shoot it out to these banks. And so it's coming from a third party. They get the information from creditors. Creditors subscribe to one or more of these 3 major credit bureaus. They don't all subscribe to the same one. I can give you an example in that People Incorporated, where I work, reports to TransUnion. We report to TransUnion because we are a small, dinky organization in terms of the world. And we are not big enough to report to Equifax or Experian. However, when you come to us and we pull your credit, we almost always pull Equifax. So, because that is just, it's a more broad-based, even though they don't accept small creditors like us, it's a more broad-based bureau. So, creditors trade your information back and forth. Public records are also a source of information that goes on your credit report. Obviously, if you have a property lien or a judgment, bankruptcies, wage attachments or garnishes, those go on your credit report. So, how are a credit report and a credit score different? Well, you have a copy of your credit report there, your imaginary credit report. You see, it's a document. It is a file. A credit score is a 3-digit number. They used to go from 300 to 800. Recent developments in the statistical arts mean that they now go from approximately 250 to approximately 900. But still, the major range is from 300 to 800. They're used to assess statistically the likelihood that if I give you $50, you're going to show back up on payday with payment. They managed to figure out that statistically you are likely to do exactly what you did last time. So lots of different statistical models exist. The uses of the various ones are vary in popularity and what they're used for. There is no, people ask me this all the time. People come to me for credit counseling, they say, what does my credit score have to be for the bank to give me a loan? That's not even a question I can answer. There is no universal minimum acceptable number. I can tell you that the higher your score is, the better shape you're in. I can tell you that some banks around here have suggested that they prefer things in the neighborhood of 650 and up. But that's like saying, I heard that so-and-so said that he said that she said. So it's not very useful. There is no universal minimum. Go back just a second. Oh, yeah, higher score, better risk, never mind. I already said that. So, what is the statistical gob of numbers made up of? How do you get a credit score? Like I said, there are a lot of statistical models, but the one that's like kind of the everyday usage is FICO. You've probably heard of your FICO score. Your FICO score is made up in its biggest chunk of your payment history. Specifically, in fact, your payment history from the last 24 months or 2 years' time. And that's 35% of your entire credit score. So, obviously at this point, you can see that if you start today making payments regularly, you can make a giant improvement in your credit score in 2 years. 30%, the other giant chunk, is your total debt. Now, total debt is a ratio. Total debt is where you take all the money that the banks and the credit cards and the car lenders and all that are willing to give you, and then you subtract from it the amount that you already have floating around out there spent. So if I have a credit card with a $10,000 limit, and I have already spent $7,000, I'm going to have a very poor total debt ratio. If I can keep it below 30% or below about $3,000, that's going to look a lot better. Even better, if I can pay it off every month, that's going to look great. So, those two make up 60% 65% of your FICO score combined, but that's not everything. 65 is just a little over half. So 15% is your length of credit history. Not everyone has a long credit history. Culturally, particularly in this area of the country, and particularly among certain groups, having credit, period, has traditionally been frowned upon. People grow to middle age never having had credit, period, never having borrowed money for a car, or a house, or a credit card. You may not have a long credit history. However, a lot of people do have a long credit history. People who were lucky enough to graduate high school and go directly into higher ed, and maybe had to take out a loan their first year of college, those people tend to have a much longer credit history because that loan is their first credit establishing. It establishes their first credit. I just yodered a word there, but y'all know what I mean. So you may have a very long credit history. 10% is the amount of new credit. That means, are you eligible for a credit upgrade, basically? If you keep dropping credit in there, they're gonna think you're needing money or struggling for credit. But if you're eligible for some credit, that's positive. Types of credit in use is the last 10%. There are different types of credit. There's revolving credit, which is credit that you pay every month, like your water bill. There's installment credit, like your bank loans. There's car notes and house notes and credit cards, and so if you have a good mix of those, then it's looked on as you have a more wide responsibility base. You have proven that you're responsible not only with a credit card, or not only with a car payment, but with various types of credit. So, you need to get your financial house in order because you want to start a business. And you want to get some money to capitalize your business so that you are starting off on your best foot. So what are you going to do? You're going to get your financial house in order. You're going to obtain a copy of your personal credit report either through annualcreditreport.com or on Credit Karma that we just talked about. You're going to look for any inaccuracies or mistakes. There's a number here that blew my mind. When I went to receive my credit counseling certification, I learned that 80% of all credit reports have an error somewhere in them. It may be a name mistake, it may be an address mistake, but think about people who spend all day long doing nothing but typing in how much you owe into a database. Their fingers might get off every now and then. In Bristol, my in-laws live on Mountain View Drive, but there's the same house number on Mountain View Road, and we get their bills all the time. Well, at one point, we had to call the credit bureau because not only did we get their bills in our mailbox, we got them on our credit report. So we had to call it and have it fixed, and they were happy to fix it, and it was not a huge big deal, but you have to watch for things like that. Social Security numbers are 10 numbers long. If you miss by one, somebody else is getting a bill. So make certain that all your accounts are current and that you don't owe somebody something that you've forgotten about. It's easy to do this with medical. You have an illness. You go to the doctor sends you to have an x-ray. While you're there, they do an ultrasound. Meanwhile, someone's reading the x-ray. The ultrasound technician calls in his nurse. They bring you, paper booties and that silly little blanket with holes in it to stay warm. Well, you've got a bill from the hospital, the doctor, radiology, the doctor at the radiology place, the ultrasound technician, and somewhere in there they've charged you for paper booties and a blanket with holes in it. If one of those gets away, it can look really bad on your credit report. If there is any derogatory information, deal with it. Be upfront about it. Yep, that's mine. I somehow let that drop. I paid everybody but the guy with the ultrasound gel, and I paid him. Be proactive. Be prepared to explain and work to get it fixed. Here's the thing that not many people realize. When you have something in collections, Their name and number is on your credit report so that you can call them. When you call them, you can ask them to make an arrangement with you. My greatest secret in life is that you can ask them if they will accept a little more than half of what you owe them and call it good. Call off the hounds and fix your credit report for you. And a bizarrely high number of times they'll absolutely go along with that. So consider it. The next thing you're going to want to do before you go see that banker, you're going to want to gather your personal and business financial records. Tax returns, statements from your financial statements from your business if you're already in business or if you have another business, schedules and attachments, all those 1099s and 402 whatever, any other financial documents that might help a lender. If you have a statement that says that you own something or that you're buying something, don't bring the originals. This was a lesson I learned the hard way. A local bank that I won't mention lost the originals of my tax documents a couple of years ago. We were working on our house and went to our bank for assistance, and they lost all my tax documents. Had I made copies and brought them the copies, I would have been in much better shape. So just neatly photocopy all those things, keep your originals safe. If they must have the original, that's fine, then you have the photocopy. So, what's the lender looking for? You've got all your things together, you've got your big file of papers, you've checked your credit report, you've taken care of all your outstanding odd bills. What does your lender want to see? Well, they want to know how much you need. They're going to ask you. Here's the thing. Don't go in there and say, well, how much can you give me? That's not what they're looking to hear. It makes it sound like you haven't put any thought into this and you're just going to get money on a whim. So be prepared to support the money you're asking for with cost estimates. You know, it's not that hard to call 3 people who sell whatever it is you want to buy and find out what each of them are selling it for, so that you have a range of estimates. Invoices if you've already bought it, contracts if you're already in the process of selling it, whatever. But just, yeah, don't go in there and say, well, I'll take what you give me, because then it just looks like you don't know what you're wanting to do. You need to be able to show them that you're going to pay it back. This isn't a personal decision in the main for the lender. This is a business decision. They may support your business and want very much personally for you to make it, but they need to know that you are not going to be putting them out of business. So you have to demonstrate how you're going to pay this loan back. Debt service coverage. This is I sit in these loan meetings day after day and we talk about the EBITDA. We have to know how much of your money you think you're going to be spending on this loan payment. Because if you come to me and you tell me that you make $1,200 a month and you're prepared to pay $1,000 of it to me, I'm going to send you away because I don't want your family to go hungry. So they want to know that you can afford that loan payment. They want to know that whatever you're buying that you're using as collateral is not going to be worthless before the loan comes due. They want to know how much income you can claim and how much you want to be able to claim, because there are good reasons to leave out certain kinds of income. You know, you're not required to use child support, for example, because we don't want your children suffering if your business doesn't do well. We have a great business development manager in our office, Jeremy, and what he says is we have to remember that whatever we do for people, we're also doing to them. We also need a secondary social repayment. What's your backup plan? What if the business does not do what you think it's going to do? What if things go really wrong? What's your plan B? How do you back up and punt? Well, be prepared to say, well, maybe I'm going to take this second job, or I'm going to keep my part-time job at the night grocery store bagger. My mother-in-law's prepared to sign on to assist us if things go wrong, whatever. But be prepared to have Plan B. Now, small business loans, I said that we do these. We do business loans to get you open, help you buy equipment, to help you capitalize your business. Employees want to be paid, love their cards, they have rules about that, so we can help you with that. Crowdfunding. This is the guy for crowdfunding. I can tell you that Andrea and I have worked on crowdfunding sites for various businesses. I don't know how many, some of you have met Andrea. Andrea used to travel with me, now she's stuck in the office. But we learned everything we know from this man right here. There are various ways to do this crowdfunding thing, and come talk to us, we'll send you to him. These were some notable crowdfunding experiments. This guy made $50,000 making a bowl of potato salad. My life doesn't work that way, but I would so sign up for it. And these people, they actually put this into production at some point, this cooler. They started out with over $13 million to get the production of on this cooler. Has like speakers and an iPhone, he makes martinis, or not martinis, margaritas and what have you. There are other funding options here in our region. I've mentioned 9th District Development Financing. There are various there's tourism development financing program. My Southwest Virginia Opportunity is a big cup that I suppose we'll be doing that again this year. I've not heard anything to the contrary. So, and if you would like to talk to me about any of this further, there's my information. Now, questions? Y'all got 5 minutes for questions? Anybody?
I got a question for you.
Absolutely.
When I go to the banks, they talk about the fixed rates.
Yes.
It's my understanding that's how the bank makes its money when they resell my loan.
Right, well, fixed rate versus variable rate. Okay, a fixed rate is based on generally the word just jumped out of my head. It's prime rate, thank you. It's 3.5 right now. They've recently raised it. It was 3.25 for years and years and years. Now it's 3.5. So generally what you have is you'll have your prime rate and then your bank will have X number of points. So you might pay 3.75 if you have excellent credit, or you might just pay prime. But that's the bank's cut. When they loan you money, you pay back
They
that.
get that fixed rate for 10 years.
Yeah, they get that. And now the thing is, if you set up a loan with a fixed rate and it's 3.5 when you set it up, well, let's say that tomorrow the economy takes off and they raise the prime rate to 5% before your loan is matured. If you have fixed rate, you're still paying 3.5. If somebody has variable rate, they might be paying points on 5%, so they might be paying as much as 6 or 7% on that same loan.
Yeah, that's what confused me at the bank. So what's better, fixed?
It depends on your needs, and it kind of depends on your take on the economy. If you feel like the economy is where it is, if you feel like it's not going to go up a whole lot more, or it might even go down, then you'd probably want to go with fixed rate, or variable rate, I mean. If you feel like it might take off and shoot into the atmosphere, you're not going to want to fool with that. You're going to want a fixed rate that'll keep you at 3.5.
I need to come by the bar and we talk.
All right, well, my desk is right inside the door.
I know
You'll
where
see
you
me.
work.
You know,
Talk
just-
about it.
just to add on to that, I have a little experience with this, and I can tell you that in general, unless you're getting a loan that's for more than 10 years, in general, you are much better off with a fixed rate. And those variable rates, you have to be careful when you go apply for those, because there are closing costs, there are points,
There
there's a
can be
whole
hidden
lot of,
fees.
there could be a whole lot of
There
hidden
can be.
fees.
There's not supposed to be, they're supposed to declare everything, but if you don't understand the banker language, you might come up with a point where you're signing away money you didn't know you're signing away.
Well, or it's upfront money, like it
Yeah.
could be 3.5, but there'll be maybe $3,000 in fees. They're not
Closing
hidden,
charges.
but there may be some, up to $3,000 or $4,000 in fees, whereas sometimes with just a fixed rate, that's it, that's what it is.
Well, I think it just varies among institutions too, so, sometimes you can get, they'll give you an introductory rate on a variable rate loan. But in 2 years, on a 10-year loan, it's gonna go a lot higher. So it depends on your financial institution and what serves your needs and what kind of credit record you have.
There is one more option, and I, again, just to give you all of your options, but there is a loan that you can get where you pay the principal only, and then, pay as much, pay the interest
Interest
only,
only.
I'm sorry. And then pay as much on the principal as you can. That's kind of dangerous if it's a large amount of money. If it's a small amount of money and you're only gonna be using it for a small amount of time, that's actually a pretty good way to go, because it's not set up as some loan and some
It's like
payment
taking
situation.
online classes. If you know you're the sort of person that can get up in the morning and pay towards that principal, it's
Right.
fine. Otherwise, it's just it's a bear trap,
Right.
so. Anybody else?
Don't know much about VA financing, GI Bill.
I know that it is a valuable source of financing and that it's out there. I personally don't know a lot about it.
I mean, it's available for businesses as well as like buying a residence, so.
Okay, well, see, there you go. There's information that you can share with all of us, because that is,
You know that here?
Yeah, I'm somewhat familiar with it.
I would bet that they would be willing to have a really excellent interest rate, for example, for someone who qualified. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned the IDA,
Mhm.
is that local, the local IDA?
It's, the thing I was, it depends, wait, the Virginia Individual Development Account or the Industrial Development Authority? Oh, Sandy, do we have one of those here in Washington County?
Did you have an IDA who's given $5,000 towards the challenge, but they don't really give small business loans. They refer people to like People Incorporated or to
Okay.
a local bank.
Because then it depends on the region. There's one that we're working with on the other side of Southwest Virginia that directly does lending. So it kind of all depends on your area. Sandy has excellent information there. Thank you.
Where that is.
Anybody else? I don't know everything, but I know the awesomest people in the world, and we'll find out. Yes,
One more
ma'am.
question, the ninth district development financing, can you elaborate on that?
Ninth District Development, Ninth District Fund was created by the Governor of Virginia a few years ago to help to support the creative economy in Virginia. It is a $1 million pot of lending money that you apply for just like any other loan. Has to be collateralized with property, I believe, with land. But it's only for tourism-based businesses, because the objective of it is to bring more tourism and more tourism dollars into the region. And it's for residents of the 9th Congressional District of Commonwealth, Virginia.
I will note that that was something that Congressman Boucher worked hard to get before he left office. That was one of his last things to support
It
this
really,
growing
that was
economy. So
his
he's the one that
baby.
you really, that we're thanking for that.
We still miss him.
Yep, that was his baby, and we're part of the administration team at People Incorporated for that fund, which is why it was my responsibility to build the website, so, it's nddf.org, if you'd like to get on there and look at some of the information and the specifics.
People Incorporated administers and
Yeah, we're part of the administration team for it. It's a large pool of people that we run the paperwork, so.
What's the interest rate on this?
It is, I wanna say 6.5, it's tied to prime, and that may be wrong, but it is tied to prime and it is not terrifically high, by any means, so.
So it's nddf.org.
Yes, nddf.org, 9th District Development Fund.org.
Okay, so while you're at it, what about the Southwest Virginia opportunity?
Are they doing that? Does anyone, you all were all on the steering team, does anyone know if there's going to be a cup again this year?
We don't have money right now. So that's, we're having a team meeting tomorrow morning, and I'm sure that's gonna be talked about, but right now, we do not have money to
Keep
do
your ear
that.
to the ground. If it happens this year, you'll know about it.
When is that normally funded? Like
Uh,
October, January?
Well, what it was they received funds from different, federal sources,
cobbled
and I
together.
think some, state sources, but, that was told that was a one-time thing.
Oh.
So we're trying to look for other pools, but again, we'll know more tomorrow when we
Tomorrow's the
meet.
first meeting of the year since the last cup, so
Can you talk about the tobacco commission and grant monies that might be available there?
That's mostly for industrial type projects. But you know, they do have some special projects that you can work through
and
they
They do
actually,
a
they
lot
have
of-
an office here in this facility downstairs. The Tobacco Commission has a representative.
If you had an application you wanted to make to them, where would that be submitted?
I would go through Sarah, that's manages the office here,
Sarah
to
Williams.
review it, to see if it's something that would qualify before you go through that chain.
There is a pre-application on the Tobacco Commission's website, and that's tic.virginia.gov. However, most of the funds that the Tobacco Commission distributes is not small business loans. They are job-creating economic development loans.
so they fund the things that fund the businesses.
Right. So in general,
New industry and stuff like that.
right. Well, it's just mostly job creation and economic development. Small business falls under a whole different category. Now, they have implemented a loan system for, businesses that look like they're good businesses, but that aren't eligible for Tobacco Commission funds. So go to the Tobacco Commission website, but Sarah Williams is the person in Southwest Virginia that she and her financial associate vet all of the projects, and they are the ones that make recommendations to the commissioners.
I'm telling you, I know the coolest people.
That's where I got my B money startup. Took forever, though, forever. I had to invest in it.
Guys, is there anything else that I can refer to someone else for an answer?
Do y'all want to take a short break before our next speaker, Carl, comes on board and wows everyone?
Thank you so much for pushing.
Do you?
Talking about,
You got 5 minutes, you'll go out and go to the hall and do
I did.
That was my question.
You know, this sounds ridiculous. My mother was a hairdresser.
Oh, it looks great. I love
I
it.
still impose on her once in a while.
It moves so, is it that straight?
My hair's not blow dry. My hair's not straight.
I mean, you don't need to
Oh, man.
No, I get out of the shower and dry it off and head out the
I'm
door.
sorry, really, it's very flattering and very, it's very, you need your picture after your new haircut.
You know, I'm gonna change that picture. I've had 3 hair colors since then.
I was about to say the same thing, your hair looks
She looks so much younger with this hair. I did too. We didn't know you.
That's funny.
Because you're so youthful, and then your hair is so youthful, and so you need to one of those pictures that moves, because you're always moving anyway.
Yeah. That's why I can't get really long hair, because it seriously, not only do I move a lot, but I'm so proud of it. And it gets red. I always have real long hair for you, you know, and you can follow me sometimes, if you see me, yeah, if you have long hair and you move around a lot, it gets in the way.
That, well, yours is very flattering, really good. We always go.
Y'all are scary to talk to, I know all y'all.
We get all of them.
Yeah, no, how many times have you all heard me spiel? I try to give them something new every time. What
kind of lunch and learns, yeah.
Yeah.
Some of some extra stuff too, so. Yeah, we know all the games.
I know, next time, here's what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna pass it off and say, I'm gonna read this slide, and then I'll hand it off to the next person.
Every time there was something though, because I was wondering directly to. Everybody.
Mommy, Mary, you got it. Everybody else is on Facebook. I'm credit card.
I'm trying to be a good student.
I'm not gonna eat olives. I'm trying to be a fat student.
It's funny, the tables are turned because I'm a teacher.
Okay.
Trying to keep meticulous in that.
Right.
When I write
Right.
I had to think about it for a second. Oh, and that is not my gift, so to watch. I did. In our, we have a community
So
development.
you just were signing it off and assuming somebody knew what was going on?
Kind of nonprofit leadership. Yeah, it's fun, but it's kind of nice to be in this seat up there.
So what else?
Well, I'm going to Steve. So he's met Steve.
I love him. I love him. I hope he does well. I'm not giving I never tell him which way, and then the screws water. This is, oh, they're not very good. I'm like, yeah, they are. But I want to have a very good other than Brent, I mean, I just put Brent on. So something wrong.
Yeah, it's the, he's a cashier.
How cool. That's very interesting. And it's a different, it's a different, it is. This nobody, you know, I want everybody to win.
That's nice that they come and
No, this is, wait, is that full?
Like the girl from Blackbird, you know, we had a cupcake girl. We had one of them. I was hoping they did their upset before they get all the stuff. But it's really nice. I really like it. He was like,
I'm the quieter of the here, so.
no, I mean, that's how that's made. Otherwise, yeah.
Are you serious?
What's he gonna come back?
It's really nice. All the things that they've done together, like,
He's also got it. He's not at West Fargo anymore.
so some of us were gonna come out and wear kayaks this summer, and something kind of fell through. Yeah, no, I'm right.
Well, we love, we had,
Let me see, I'll be in there tomorrow from 9 till about 4 anyway, so. That was me.
plan on being
That's-
here.
Come after two,
If you're available, because I've got a whole meeting tomorrow here. I've got a meeting with that spirit. All right.
Ready?
But yeah.
It was nice to see you, Natasha. Thank you.
The only time I've ever seen it was on the arrest, just like this, you know, but I think it's all right. I thought when I get out my mind, I can go up there and let it get things just like chocolate, right?
Yeah, because he said it was $68.
Everybody back? Somebody's got something around here.
Ready, Sandy? Okay, good. Well, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So, I'm here to talk about managing a small business. Now, how many of you right now are in business? Okay, so we have a small number, and so you'll be able to relate some of your experiences related to that. The others of you are going to start a business. When I start talking about this, and you start hearing the different areas I bring up, please understand, those are all the areas you're going to have to deal with. And you're going to have to get creative and think differently to create your opportunity. Don't let it all come down to, I got to do all that. No, you start finding people that can help you do it. And that's the whole thing to remember as you go through this process. You're not on an island. I hear people talking, and you're already starting to put yourself on an island. And it's a critical mistake every small business does. I cannot stress that enough. They immediately, as soon as they open their doors or get their LLC, they're on an island all of a sudden. They forget everybody that's around them that's willing to help. All they have to do is ask. And that's the one thing that a lot of small businesses forget about. As soon as they get started and they start getting all this stuff and they get really busy, they think they're the only people doing that. Just look at the whole room. All are in the same boat. Okay? I did that. I always pulled my resources. I got to know the connectors to make my life easy. You know, I know what I did well, and I knew what I did not do well. And I wasn't afraid to say, I do not do that well. I need somebody to do that for me. So it's things you look at. So anyway, tonight we're going to cover you, human capital, insurance, market sales, IT cyber, logistics, manufacturing, financing. Understand that is your business. So that's all of you. You know, if you're the only person, so be it. You know, I've been that individual, and I've also been where I've had many employees. So, done the gamut. So the thing is, there's always unique challenges, whether if you're a one-person operation, two-person operation, 5, 50, 100. There's always unique things depending on where you're at. Anyway, you feel like you're flying by the seat of your pants when you're in business. Okay? So it's something to remember as you go through the process, that this is the way it feels. Okay? Even when everything is going really well, it's going to hit. Just sort of like what just happened over at the incubator. Wasn't expected, it happened. And all of a sudden, you're having to make decisions. And yet, you were making record profits, now it's all gone. What do you do? Okay, I've been in those situations. It is something you have to sit there and be very adaptable.
How many of you are very structured? Okay, it's been nice talking to you. Okay? You're going to have to learn to bend. And sometimes you will bend so far it will hurt. Okay? But you have to be that way in business. And I can't tell you enough that you will have to start thinking globally when you're in business. Because you may think, well, this is all I do. But remember, where's the materials coming from? It has a trickle effect. A lot of people forget that. I'm always looking at the global market because I'm always trying to see what's dynamically happening. So when business come talk to me, I understand. I can see things that they haven't talked about. And the reason I do that is because that will have a ripple effect. If coffee beans are doing really bad, I know the prices are going up, it's going to have a triple effect on the coffee shop. Is the coffee shop thinking far enough ahead to make sure it can capture the price increase and everything? Or is it, you know, my prices went up all of a sudden, I got to sit here and figure it out. Oh, by the way, I got sugar too, that's increasing. So it's all these things you have to think about when you're in business. You have to look continuously what's going around you. It's just not what's happening in your day-to-day operation. Anyway, you as the person, you all know your strengths. You all know your weaknesses. And these are things you have to be willing to admit and accept. And you have to make decisions on what you're going to do to improve your skills and what you're not. I always put the cliche, clean the toilets. Any business I ever ran, I always make sure I cleaned the toilets at least once a month. So I always remember where I came from. I never lost sight of where I was at. I learned that from the military. I cleaned a lot of toilets. And so the thing is that it always puts me in perspective. So when I started bringing people on and they actually saw me clean the toilets once a month, they could sit here and say, what's he doing? And so the whole idea was to show them, I have not forgotten where I came from. I am going to take care of you because I know what it felt like. And so that's the thing you have to remember. I see businesses, when they become successful, they forget that. And then all of a sudden they're having problems with their employees. And they can't seem to get ground. They can't seem to get traction. And they said, you know, it was much easier when I was by myself. And the reason is you lost sight of who you are. And these are things to remember. Okay, you as an individual. How many of you are the creative minds? Okay. The creative minds are like this. You struggle to run a business though. Now, how many of you are really good managers? Okay, that's good. But you struggle to grow the business. So it's understanding who you are. And the trip is entrepreneur, that's the risk taker, who will try any crazy things to get things going. And sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. I made my mistakes, I admit it, and that's the whole thing. So the thing is knowing who you are and saying, you know, all of us that are over age 35 are pretty much set in our ways. And the only way we change our behavior is something major and we say we're going to change it. So it's not going to change. Who you are is who you are. And the thing is to understand that and accept that. And that's how you move forward. And there's nothing wrong in that. It's just knowing that. Now, human capital. Some of you have employees, right? A few of you. Even if you don't have an employee, I tell you create an employee manual. And the reason I do that is because when you hire your first employee, you're already behind the power curve. Because this is what you're starting to focus on. Well, I got to get an employee manual. You're already behind. If you're thinking you're going to eventually hire some people, do this now while you're getting everything set up. You're in control. And then you can expand the employee manual or you can keep it small, depending on how many people you hire and what you're wanting to offer. But the thing is, it puts you in perspective of how you look at things. But the one thing that I always tell, because this is the critical mistake a lot of businesses do, I deal with it every day, literally. These two little things, confidentiality agreement and non-compete agreements. I can't tell you how many people I'm getting phone calls, and they say, this guy, he used to work for me, and he went and he's taking my customers. I said, did you sign it confidentially or non-compete? No. I said, well, it's open season. I stress to everyone, if you're going to hire an employee, you better have that. That way they can't touch your customers for at least 2 years, and that protects you. If you're showing them new ways, like new recipes, things like that, they basically can't touch them. These are things to protect you. Nothing against the employee, it's just the fact is, that as employees learn things, they think they can do it better, and they'll go. Yes, ma'am?
What if they break that agreement?
Then you can take legal action against them. Okay? This just kind of puts everything into perspective, dealing with things. It keeps them in check. Okay? Because what a lot of people do when they don't sign this, people that are smart, they sit there and immediately start getting in good with your customers. And then basically when they say, hey, they start the murmurs going, I'm going out on my own, I'm thinking of doing this, would you be interested? Yeah, I think I might, And next thing you know, all of a sudden you're losing business. And you can't figure out why. It's because the person that left basically started something. Okay, so make sure you have those two. And then OSHA, if you're doing anything, just like with your river business and that's got OSHA requirements, even if you're sitting here saying, I just sit at a desk, you still got OSHA. Because of computers, carpal tunnel syndrome, and things like that. So there's all these requirements that pop out. So EPA is the Environmental Protection, that's only those, where's my person that was going to manufacture clothing?
It's
Yeah, no, there it is. May fall into that depending on what he's using for his clothing materials and stuff like that. American Disabilities Act, that is a big one. Okay, please be aware that if you're going to start your business location and you're going to lease, make sure the place is meeting ADA requirements, because if you don't have that in your lease, you may be stuck with that and get the place up to snuff. Yes, ma'am?
How do you find what OSHA's requirements are for your specific segment of business?
Actually, it's under the NICS codes.
Okay.
Okay, or they use the SIC codes, I should say.
Okay.
Okay,
We know
But-
what that is, because that was in one of our other classes.
yeah. But if you run a problem, let me know, because I used to do a lot of work for companies,
Okay.
help them deal with OSHA and EPA.
So Carl, does OSHA, I used to be under the impression that OSHA didn't really kick in unless you had more than 5 employees.
Actually, it's 10 is their magic number.
Okay.
But if they get a complaint, and
Right.
if they're slow, they come out.
So,
Just so you know that.
so if you demonstrated that you trained your employees in a safe work habit, stuff like that, it would be good even in a small business to show and document that you had this training.
Absolutely. And the reason is that it's not even OSHA per se, it's also from a legal standpoint. If somebody ever want to take, this way you're setting your standards early. And I cannot stress that enough. It's all about staying ahead of the game, because as was brought up previously about being Sue happy society, we have to make sure that we put our safety net in to protect us. But the American Disabilities Act's a big one. I'll give you a case in point. I was expanding my manufacturing operation. I was going to build offices. And so I submitted my plan, and I took the American Disabilities Act into account. And the fact is that I didn't think anything about it, submitted my paperwork to the state. Next thing I know, the state comes back. I have more ADA bathrooms than I have regular bathrooms. I have to put showers in, and I deal with chemicals in my facility because I'm manufacturing that business. And I was like, there's no way I could ever have anybody with those type of disabilities in the environment I work in. And so I'm sitting here thinking, where's the logic here? So I went to the state to challenge it. Now understand, who do you think the board is made up from on the American Disabilities Act? Huh? It's all people with disabilities. Okay? So there was a whole group, and I mean, every disability you could think of, it was there. All right? So I had 4 groups in front of me. I had a law firm, I had a doctor's office, a daycare center, and I'd never seen people so nasty. I mean, they just ate these people alive. I mean, the one woman came out crying. It was just like, and my partner with me said, I think we just ought to call it quits. And I said, no, we're going in. We're going to win here. I'm confident. So I came in, I showed my whole case, and we were first case to win. We were the only small business to win. The reason was I sat here and I understood what we could do and what we couldn't do, and to accommodate and also to protect the people that had disabilities if I put them in that environment. So they were totally cool. And so we got what we wanted, and there was no big deal. But the fact is, it's you got to do your homework. But yet my partner was ready to call it quits after what he saw happen. You know, and that's when we talk about taking the risk. And at the end of the day, I could have had more things thrown on top of me, which happened to the other one. They actually had to do more because they went in trying to get a quick change and things to be aware of. The Affordable Care Act. Okay, you hire an employee. Do you have to do anything?
Not if you don't have, I think, 25 employees or something.
Absolutely, you do have to do something. You have to give them a sheet of paper every October and says, we are not providing health insurance, or we are providing health insurance for you. Okay? And it's a sheet of paper. But if you don't do it, you're not meeting the requirements. All these little things that come up that you wouldn't know about, that you have to stay on top of. That's what happens when you go into business. You think you only have to worry about what the day-to-day stuff is? No. The government's creating new regulations on a continuous basis. And these have ripple effects. And then the other thing to remember, if you're supplying someone, they may ask you to require that because they have to require it. So these are little things you have to kind of be aware of as you go forward. The other thing is, you have job descriptions. Fantastic. You always should have job descriptions of what you want the people to do. Hiring good talent, the key component in that is not that they're experts and everything, it's about the chemistry. In a small business, the biggest downfall for businesses is bad chemistry. The people do not click. So please understand, just because somebody's an expert in finance, if they have bad chemistry, it's just going to be ugly. Okay? It's all about chemistry when you're a small business. You've got to have it. If you're having high turnover rates, there's a clue, there's a problem. And that should be something for you to take a hard look at. It may be you, which may be very difficult to say it is you. But the fact is, you have to be aware that it may be you. What happens if somebody doesn't show up? What's your contingency? You know, are you ready to throw on the gear and get out there and start working? You know, these are things you have to think about because that disrupts everything else. These are your contingencies. And then if you're providing training I was talking about, is it education? And then if you're doing the job description, there should be on-the-job training checklist too. Because that way you have a connection. That they went through it and they signed off, said they did it, accepted it, all that. Yeah.
Can you, like, we had our employees go to CPR first aid training last year, and we paid for it. If we make that a requirement of the job, do we have to pay for their training time? If it's before they've even started, before they're employed with us?
No, if they haven't officially employed with it, you can give them the money and
That's
say,
what I was saying, we'll pay for the training, but I'd
you
like to.
pay
get
for the
that
training,
standard.
and then when you come on board, then that's stipulation of them being hired.
Okay.
That's
So,
called pre-employment
Yeah.
training to see
Yeah.
if they
yeah, they
match.
have to have that Because that would be your job description.
Because I get the training for $49, but if I had $49 plus another 50, you know, it's more expensive, so. okay.
Yeah, but that's the way you can do it. Yeah. So these are things you look at. But these are things you start thinking differently to save yourself money, okay, as you go forward. The thing is that when you're in human capital, I've tried to break this out, how you should think about things and look at it. So quarterly, you should take a look at your program to see how it is, just to make sure everything's okay. And then annually for new requirements, and then a human capital manager, you know, people talk about it now. I can tell you, 10 years ago, it was 100 employees. That was a standard in the industry. You had to have 100 people before you hired someone. 5 years ago, it's 50. Today, some people are even looking at 25, just because of all the requirements that have come down in the past couple of years with personnel and everything else from labor. So these are things you kind of have to be aware of. And guess what? That's a cost overhead. So, you know, it's not generating revenue for you, nothing. It's a cost overhead. So, you know, these are things you kind of got to pay attention to.
And there's HR consultants out there too, that if you're at 10 or 15 that you want to consult with.
Yeah, I always
they're
tell
all
people, there's
around
very
that.
good software that you can write your employee. I wrote my first employee manual using computer software. And then I gave it to a consulting firm to do the evaluation that I meet all the requirements. Okay, it's low cost, got done. It was a win-win situation. You can do that through your whole process. These are things, checks and balances, depending on the nature of your business. That's what this all comes down to. Insurance. I just want to point out, unemployment, workers' compensation, people forget about this. I don't know why. But they forget about paying this. And it comes back. There's no mercy in this one. Okay? There are certain things you can do wrong with taxes and things like that, and there's some mercy. There's no mercy with this. They will go after you. And you might as well just close the doors, because when they go after you, they're going after you. And the thing is, something to be aware of. Some states, not Virginia, but some states do have disability requirements even. So these are things you kind of have to pay attention to. But you've got to have this thought into your costs if you're bringing employees on. You already got to have that thought out.
Your unemployment, how do you do that by setting up our books?
Okay, the unemployment is set up based, as we talked previously, the industry you're in.
Yeah.
Okay. And, excuse me, that's workman's comp. The unemployment, basically that's a fee that's set up with the state. Who's the state rep? Because I got Pennsylvania's in my head since I just came from Pennsylvania.
State rep,
Yeah, there's
VEC,
for the
Virginia
unemployment.
Employment Commission?
Yeah,
Virginia Employment Commission.
Generally, your person that does your
Books, set something up.
books and taxes can
Okay.
set that up.
Yeah.
That's what I
You don't have to
thought.
find that.
yeah, but I was trying to think, because there's a rate, that each state has a different rate.
No, your rate is set on, like if you're a new business, I think it's a low rate.
Yeah, it is.
It's like, I can't remember now.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I
Yeah.
knew Pennsylvania's was different than here, because I looked at that when I first came over here. So,
But every claim makes your rate go up.
yeah,
And how do you know, here I work in human resources and I do employment, that I do with a larger company that's been established, so I never even think about the rate for them. But for me, it's a totally different thing. Like for a seasonal business, where we might just work 6 months out of the year, when we, close out our season, are they gonna be eligible for unemployment? They work 2 quarters,
mhm,
or maybe a quarter and a half, depending on, they
Yeah.
are going to be eligible.
mhm.
How if they just work 1 quarter,
Then it should,
okay?
yeah.
If they're a student, does it matter?
Student, they're going back to school, so.
Okay.
But the thing is, that's where, and that's why I'm saying the regulations have changed, and they've changed towards the employees over the past 4 years. Okay? It's very labor focused on the employees. Okay? The other reason I bring this up is, let's say you fire someone because they violated one of your policies. All right? Understand, and I always say you gotta know things, understand who the judges are that review the case. If they're employee friendly, you gotta make a business decision. Is it worth my time to go in there and fight it? When the judge is going to probably rule against me. Do I wanna pay a lawyer for that, or I just eat it?
Well, for every termination, it's, you have an opportunity to have a hearing on the phone.
Right, but the thing is, I can tell you, I terminated people, violated our drug policy and everything else, had all the facts, and I still lost the case.
Really?
Yes, because the judge was employee friendly.
Now, I haven't had that, but
Yeah.
I've had all my facts and stuff.
Yeah,
But you,
but-
I'm sure you do too. But.
Yeah, but this is what I'm talking about, it's understanding who the judge is. That's where this comes into play, it's understanding these dynamics that a lot of times we don't think about, shouldn't be an issue, but it does have a ripple effect. Thing is that business owner's policy, that's a whole packet together that they talked about a couple of weeks ago when you had the panel and getting a good agent. Anyway, they talk about all these insurance, depending on what you are. The one I want to point, two I want to point out here is this business interruption. Okay, the thing is, if your business is interrupted and you're not generating revenue, you still got to take care of yourself. And if you have employees, you got to take care of them. This is insurance that makes sure that still happens, so you can still pay your debts off. Okay? Example, seasonal business, okay? The river. Could the river shut down?
The drought.
Yeah, it can get so drought that they basically, or it gets too high, it's a safety risk. Okay, there's a ripple effect that you may be down for a period of time that has an economic impact. And these are things you have to kind of pay attention to. Cybersecurity is a big one, especially if you're going to be working with bigger companies. You have to be sure, because they're starting to ask, what's your cybersecurity plan? What do you have in place? What kind of software protections have you put in place? Are you on the cloud? Not on the cloud. These are things that start to be asked from the big business, small business, because a lot of the big businesses that have been taken down is because of small business not having the safeties in place. So these are things we find. The other thing's flood, that's talked about commonly. The other is, if you're the individual and you're going to have debt on your company, I highly recommend you get life insurance on you. So if you happen to pass away, your significant other isn't cursing you for what you left them. So that way you remember that. Just a recommendation, but it's something to think about.
Well, Carl, that kind of brings up something that a lot of small businesses don't even think about, is a succession plan.
Mhm.
If something happens to the owner overnight, does he have a plan in place of what's going to happen with that business?
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Yeah. To say as soon as you open your doors, you better be seeing how you're going to close your doors. Anyway, quarterly on your mandatory, annually for the others. Anyway, your business curve. You as a business, you know what your business is. Is it a true startup? Is it in a growth or mature? Okay, most of you are startup category. What's the industry though? Is the industry startup and growth mode, or is it a mature industry you're going into? This determines a lot of things. One is if you're looking to get funding, they look at that. Because if you're coming into a mature industry, it's kind of like, it's already saturated. What are you bringing? Typically at that point it's price. So these are things you have to look. And then what is the global market? We have to look at everything globally now. Because what we may made here today may not be made here tomorrow. And these are things we have to be aware of. Anyway, as I keep stressing to you, it is a global economy. We have to think about it. And also everything's turning to a green effect. It is more environmentally friendly. We're starting to see the bigger companies ask those questions of the small businesses. What do you have in place for sustainability? The market. When you're getting out there, you're trying to find your customer base. Who's the target market? That will be talked about later on. Your product, service, interest, competition. You'll even say, most of the time when we talk competition, talk about the competition here. But if I'm talking river trips, or I'm talking coming to your store, what's outside the region that can take customers away? That people will bypass me just because they want to go there. And understand, the reason I bring that up, because Virginia has been slow to the game. You look at how North Carolina's established, you look at Tennessee established for bringing tourism. You look at Pennsylvania's establishment. You know, you look at West Virginia for years, the Wild, Wet and Wild and all that. Okay, they've already set groundworks. We're kind of coming into the game late. So we got to sit here and figure out how do we play? And how do we make it such an attraction that people will not bypass us?
Do you think there's, while we are behind, do you think there's, how do you feel that we're doing if you're giving us a report card now as we try to get caught up? For Southwest Virginia, not.
I think there's a lot of positives. I think that the region has to think as a region though. That way it makes me stay. Okay, if I'm only coming for a day, that'll be it. As I call it, the so-called competitors have to work as a unit to really showcase so people will stick longer and say, oh yeah, have you tried this? Why should I go to that river versus, oh, the experience is different, this is why. Each one is able to talk about the other's experience. That becomes a very positive message and people like that because it gives them a different flavor. Your price points, somebody brought up earlier, your trademark, your copyright issues you have to be concerned with. You know, no matter what you create, as long as it's good in Virginia, at least you own that state. Now, you know, you may have to compete with the other 49, but at least you got this state, so somebody wants to take that. And that is important, okay, as you move forward. I had a company that's called Hot Dogma, okay, and it sold hot dogs, okay. And what was so unique, it made the Food Channel, and that was its kiss of death. It made the Food Channel, and the reason was, it was actually a place that made the hot dogs and all that in the sanctuary, in the basement of a church. And they sold it out, and you know, and it got recognized, the really unique flavors and all that. Made the Food Channel. Next thing you knew, they were being sued. There was a Hot Dogma in Miami. Miami was established before they were. So they had to change their name as part of the agreement. So these are things you kind of have to be aware of, that if you grow in popularity, that you may have to look, and because you're close to Kentucky, you're close to Tennessee, you're close to West Virginia, I recommend you take a look. So at least you understand if there's somebody that may impact you. And then development of marketing. Anyway, these are electronic. What's the one thing that's common with all these?
All social media.
Social media?
They're free.
Yeah. Very cheap. Starting out, this is the way you need to be thinking. If you understand these, and you got an excellent resource right back there with Sandy, take advantage of it. Because this can get you rolling very quickly.
What's HubSpot?
Actually, HubSpot, if you look at that, it's actually where it's more sophisticated, where it pulls everything together.
It's like Hootsuite?
Yeah, yeah.
But they usually have like this, the new hot thing that's out there. It's kind of like your, not a news clipping, but they'll tell you, keep you updated on what's happening on the.
Yeah, they're a little bit more. But the idea is to get you to understand there are a lot of tools in the electronic arena that don't cost you a lot of money that can really get your market strategy. And you need to be thinking that way because guess what? 90% of the people are going to the internet first. So I don't care where you put all your brochures, unless you're just wanting to focus on the local market, fine. But if you're looking beyond that, you better be thinking this way. Okay. And then one thing I talked about earlier with the competitors, if you guys sit here and work together, those people that are in the same arena you are, and you gather your social media as a unit, very powerful, delivers a very positive message, and really makes people really interested, and your footprint explodes very quickly. And these are things you got to look at. Anyway, traditional, what does this mean in money? Dollars. And to get the price break, how many do you gotta get printed?
A million.
Yeah, yeah. And usually, as soon as you get it, your phone number changes or something, you know, or your email address. So think very hard, very strategically about going this way. What am I spending this for? Not because everybody else is doing brochures. Please don't do it because of that reason. Think about your business and what is going to give you your best return for your dollar.
Probably the most important on there is the number one, business cards.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, and
probably one of the
business
most
cards that
effective
actually can
marketing
get to you.
pieces.
I just went to a candy extravaganza, you know, there was local small candy companies. And gave me his card and I went back to look, because he says, I don't know how to market myself. And it was like 4 of them said that to me as I was going around tasting the chocolates. And I said, I'll come and visit you. I figure I'm going to get something out of this deal. And so the whole thing was, I'm lining them up. And then I got their cards. And they had, it was so incomplete. I says, now I got to go on the internet and really look at them. If I was a customer, potential customer, I'd be done with them. So that was the whole thing. So these are things you look at, those little things that just kind of like derail it. Even though you have a business card, you haven't done your homework. And how do you sell it? Forget it. So these are things you look at. Sales, the critical component. Marketing is how you're going to do it. Sales is the money. Make it happen. Okay, Google Analytics, and they do some very good workshops. I think there's a whole series going on here in the next couple of months. In the region.
We did Google Analytics,
We did it
back in the
about 2 months
fall.
ago.
2 months ago, okay, and I think there's one coming in Marion or something like that, or dealing with it. So anyway, the thing is that a lot of sales reps are now being called business development person. Lots of people always say, I gotta get a salesperson. You know, I gotta get somebody out there to help, and I'm sitting there thinking, wait a second. You know, is it really that you need a salesperson, or do you need somebody to just kind of run the day-to-day stuff at your operation? And you go out and do sales because you really know how to do it well. Sometimes you gotta look at this a little bit differently. So kind of pay attention to that when you're looking at things. Because that salesperson's not gonna know it like you are, especially when you're starting out. You know the ins and outs. They don't. Forecasting, your pricing, as you grow, you should always be thinking about where's my new sectors, you know, what are new markets for me to go into? What are potentially new products and services I'm going to create? You should always be, even if it just hits you, just write it down. Eventually you're going to go back and look at it. But the thing is, this keeps you thinking different. Because what happens is, once you get into the routine, and this is what's happened to the manufacturing sector, it gets caught in a routine. It does the same thing every day, does it really well. I got the one customer that's supplying me. All of a sudden that supplier says, I'm done with you. You're out. Do not get comfortable with customers. If your customers are, if there's one customer more than 25% of your business, you better be figuring out how to get rid of them. Because that will kill you when they pull the plug. I took over a company with 75% one customer. And in 3 years, they were only 12% of my business.
Great examples, look at all these manufacturers that support the coal industry right now, and they're
Yeah.
struggling to try to figure out how they can retool, and go after a new market, and that's a
And
prime
that's what I did
example,
with this
just look
company.
around
I
you.
totally redesigned it. We were a mature market company, I took over, but I redesigned it. And that's the thing you have to think about when you're in this. The other thing is, what is my customer complaints? You know, am I hearing a common theme, or is it just one of those things? And that's the thing with social media. It is quick and instantaneous in today's world. And you gotta be ready to react to it, you know? Just sit there and be very positive, supportive. The other thing is, those of you that have customers that you're gonna be using on a regular basis, I tell everybody on a quarterly basis, you look at who's your most profitable and least profitable. Those that have covered the overhead, and those that are making really good money. Those that are making really good money, take care of. Those that are kind of there, when you start growing too much, you kick them out to the corner. So that way you keep yourself going in a positive direction. These are things you look at.
Carl, well mentioned on the previous slide about marketing and so forth. tomorrow, our new knowledge is based on developing an effective PR plan, and we've got a fantastic presenter that's going to be doing that, and that's from 12 to 1:30 over at the Government Center. So I would suggest if you can, that would be a good opportunity for, because PR is something that it may not cost you anything, but if you've got to have a plan in action, especially if something goes wrong and something dramatic happens at your business, you need to have a PR plan or know how to put one in place to try to combat that negative.
Will you be able to record that?
We hope, this is our first, we don't know that,
We don't know
the
if we
bandwidth.
have technology.
Who's your speaker?
Cindy Hagman, she is Director of Marketing for Bristol Compressors, but Cindy's come from Florida and some other states. She's great at, she did a workshop for us on LinkedIn. She's very up on social media, but also on all facets of marketing, so we're lucky to have her.
That's great. Thank you
I'm
for
sorry.
sharing that. No, thank you for sharing that. Anyway, your marketing, you should look at quarterly and annually. Your sales, you should be looking at daily, monthly, quarterly, annually. You should start seeing your trends very quickly, how things are looking. Why am I slow now? You know, why this time of the week am I slow? And if it is that slow, do I really need to be open that day? You know, these are all things you start making business decisions. Just don't collect it. You actually start analyzing it to make determinations. These are business decisions. IT, cyber, all you're going to have a computer, at least one, or a smartphone, something along those lines. But the thing is that you have to have a program in place because heaven forbid if you get hacked. Because at that point, your reputation is destroyed. Especially if information gets out about your customers. And that's why the cybersecurity insurance is really important. Because these are things you have to think about now. And you're easy targets because typically the people that are starting out don't put the proper precautions in place. They take little shortcuts. Well, I really don't have the money, you know. I don't have a lot of customers yet and things like that, so they do it. The thing is, somebody drops a malware in there very quickly, it can sit.
Well, so if you're using something like Square, and that's where your customer database is, would Square not be responsible for that?
But remember, doesn't matter who's responsible. Who's the customer going to remember?
Yeah.
Okay? That's all this comes down to. Doesn't matter who has it. You can blame Square. The customer's going to say, you went to Square. So that's the thing you got to remember when you look at this.
And that's something you need to put in your training for your employees, is who's accessing that, who has control of those credit cards and who's doing it. Again, whoever you employ is your responsibility.
Yeah, these are things you look at. And depending on the sensitivity, if anybody's ever handling money or anything like that, I tell you should do criminal background checks. Okay, it's not that expensive. But where would you do a criminal background check? No, but I mean, which states?
Well, the way that I've done it is I do the states they were employed in the last 7 years, they lived in the last 7 years, or they were educated in the last 7 years.
Okay, so she's made that decision in that. Remember, most criminals usually don't go 100 miles beyond from where they committed the crimes. And so the thing is, they just relocate. And guess since you're, in reality, if you're bringing somebody in, you're doing Virginia, you should actually be doing Tennessee and Kentucky and West Virginia and North Carolina. So these are things you look at if you want to make sure you're prior, if they're handling sensitive things. If they're going to be doing trips and there's children involved. These are all things you have to be thinking about in your business operation.
The other thing is, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but the other thing is, if you have a gift certificate that's just something standard you can buy from Office Depot, you probably should make sure that it has your stamp or your something that is an identifying mark, because I actually had somebody steal from the gift certificate.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I make them myself. How would, I guess you number them, you have some sort of cross-reference or something?
You should have them numbered, but because you don't, if a sequence of numbers is missing or a number in a sequence is missing, then they should be able to produce the voided portion of that. But if it's something they can copy by making it, if they have the same software then, and they can make it, then yours has to have something identifiable that is your gift certificate.
So would you recommend that we buy it from Office Depot or make our own? What were you saying?
Well, you can have stamps made that
Yeah.
only you have
Okay.
in your office, and that stamp could be, I don't know what, but.
Yeah, but these are things you say,
A kayak.
you're sitting
Yeah.
there saying, these are things you have to be thinking about, because there will always be somebody. Think how sophisticated the smartphone's gotten. Do you want that smartphone, that person working your cash register to have their smartphone on their hand? No, think everything comes across, take a quick picture, I got the numbers. So these are little things you have to think about that have impacted other companies. These aren't things made up, these are things that have happened.
And one other thing, if you place a coupon in a magazine, a newspaper, make sure you have an expiration date on it.
Yeah,
We
good
had a
point.
problem with that on free pizza on some magazine we had, and they overwhelmed a pizza place because we did not have, there was not an expiration
Oh,
date.
wow, that's good to know.
So,
Anyway, 19, once again, daily on, looking at things monthly, quarterly, annually.
coupons.
These are decisions. Logistics, your suppliers, packaging. These are all critical components. Weather. You get if you're needing something delivered to you and the weather is like we've had the past couple of days, these have ripple effects. And depending on, especially manufacturing and things, you will see more and more of this potentially have an impact. Example, I had silos, and I was a just-in-time operation. I didn't warehouse anything. So my silos were filled basically when they were emptying out. That's how we ran our operation. The thing is, though, my trucks were coming from, I was in Pennsylvania, coming from Maryland, okay? And they were rail cars that were coming from Louisiana that they pulled from. If a hurricane was coming to the Gulf Coast, I had to think that far ahead to get rail cars up, so when they shut down because of the storm, I still could get material. And I had to think far enough ahead of what I needed to sit there and keep myself operational. These are things you have to think about when you're working with suppliers. Those suppliers, they'll sit there and they'll bend over backwards, they'll great. You'll have others, I'm a little busy right now, it'll be 2 weeks before I get to you. You need to be finding someone else. I always tell people you should have at least 2 people that are doing the same thing for you. And you give 75% to one, you get 25% to the other to keep them happy. That way you're always got that other person. So if the other one starts to slack off, you got the other one to come in. Payment terms, once again, this is what we talk about. The stronger you are in how you communicate and things like that, you can work itself out some nice payment terms. And are you gonna, a lot of people, the people that fear me the most are the people that were managers at Walmart. Because when they take over a small business, they have the mentality of a Walmart. So they buy in bulk, get the great price break, but it's too much. And then they're overwhelmed, and they can't get rid of the inventory. And so this is what I always tell people, you gotta understand where you come from and how your mentality is. May not work in a small business environment because it's totally different. So if you work for big companies, and you're coming into a small company and never been there, it'll be an adjustment. You're gonna have to think very different. I worked with a gentleman who basically was CFO for Fortune 100 companies. And he basically started a small business. New technology, great product and everything. He says, everybody's gonna give me money. I says, not anybody's gonna give you a dime. He says, why? He says, I've done books for, I said, you're a small business now. He laughed. He went in, he did. His financials were fantastic. He went in and he went into 15 banks and didn't get one loan. And he was irate. He said, do they know who I am? I said, yeah, you're a small business. You know, trying to get him to understand the playing field changed when he left corporate. And these are things you gotta be aware of when you're in business. It's nothing personal, it's business. That's all I tell people, it's just business. Anyway, same thing, manufacturing goes through, maybe doing that. You know, what equipment, maintenance program, potential breakdowns, overtime, whatever your business is. Sometimes people jump the gun and they say, I need to hire more people. And maybe all you need to do is just overtime for a period of time. And a lot of people don't talk about overtime. And this is something you think about. I say, you know, I'd rather have my people work extra. And that way I'll ride the wave, and if it stays consistent, then I'll bring somebody on. You know, as I tell people, if they're consistently working 50 hours a week, then it's time to bring someone on. But if they're not, peaks and valleys, no, it's just an overtime issue. But these are things you have to look at. The other thing, capacity of operation. I can't believe how many people say, I gotta get a bigger space. I said, why? He said, well, you know, I need more people. And I said, okay, and how many hours a day do you run? 8. I said, you got 16 still available. So why aren't you running 3 shifts in the same place? And build your revenue base up, so then you can get what you really want. But that people immediately, as soon as they start seeing that, they immediately forget that concept, and they say, no, I just need bigger space. I said, okay, fine. I went to round-the-clock operations first. Once again, these are things you have, depending on where you're at, what your business is, this is kind of how you have to look at things. Finances, accounts receivables, accounts payables. Why do I have accounts receivables first?
Gotta have that.
Yeah, this is the one thing, I can't tell you how many businesses I go into, and this is what they forgot to send out to get paid. I'm gonna get to it, I've been really busy. I was tired last night, I'm going, oh my gosh. You know, this is your money that's gonna pay your accounts payables, they're not waiting for you. This is where a lot of people make mistakes. You always get your accounts receivables out. Cash flow, I kind of rate it as relevance of importance, how people look at it. And, you know, you'll be able to determine your sales forecast. There's historicals. When you do your research, you'll be able to tell by your industries what sales look like. And then also, as you get more knowledge with your history, you'll be able to determine things better. Daily sales, accounts receivable, accounts payable. Monthly cash flow, income statements, balance sheet. Quarterly, all areas. Anybody know what D&B Paydex score is? Go to Bradstreet, but do you know what this one in particular is?
Is that like your business credit rating?
No, it's not a business credit rating. This one deals with your suppliers. This is showing if you pay on time. If you have a score of 80, their score is based on 100. So if you get a score of 80, that means you pay on time. If you're less than 80, you're a risk. That means you've got a higher terms. Okay? The other thing is that if you're 100, that means you pay everything in 10 days or less. So I tell people, learn that because that's relevant when you're working with suppliers that you're trying to purchase from. That way that gives you leverage if you understand that. You wonder how they come up with their terms? This is some of the areas they look at. And if you can talk that kind of puts them in place very quickly and say, wow, this person actually knows what they're talking. Most small businesses don't know this. And these are things you have to look at. Then please annually make sure you file your taxes. And then you make decisions, business at the end of the year, deciding, you know, do you need future funding sources as you expand? Those are business decisions you look at as you go forward. Disasters. Once again, cyber is our number one, but we have the disasters, floods, mechanical issues. These are things you have to think about. And if you don't have the insurance to get there, I can tell you, basically half the businesses that close because of a disaster never open the doors again. And that means Yeah, it's bad, but the thing is, think of all the debt that you're having to pay back because you have no revenue coming in at that point.
I went to work for the incubator in September 2013. The sprinkler system burst January 2014. It flooded last month, January 2016. So seriously, yeah, seriously, you can have disasters that you wouldn't even, you wouldn't even imagine were gonna happen.
And that's what we try to stress. When you're on your own and your thing, remember, anything can happen, can happen. You know? So it's the things to be aware of. Your life will become this, research. You'll be researching everything. You'll be researching good deals, get better pricing. You'll be looking for how to get to customers better. This becomes your life when you're in business, research. So how do you make your life easier researching? You know what to ask for? Use the colleges. Use the students to help you do your research. Give them an education at the same time you get what you need. Yeah. As I say, everything doesn't have to cost a fortune. There are a lot of ways. I tell you, when I ran my businesses, I did everything I could not to spend money. And I tapped every resource I could to sit there and take advantage. Example, we have an export grant, right? That's out, you get $5,000 for marketing purposes. Okay, how many of you need a website? Okay, now if you did a little homework of some countries, because Southwest Virginia knows what international people kind of visit this area, correct? All right, so couldn't you put that website in that language and you get your website? It's thinking differently.
Say that again.
If you sit here and you've got to build a website, okay, Southwest Virginia has this data on the visitors to the region. So we know which countries are coming to this area in a concentration. Okay, so let's just say it's German. All right? Could I put my website in English and German?
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. And then I can use that grant to help with that because I'm looking to do business.
And just kind of tell people how they can find some of that data.
That
Research.
data,
Research.
it's research. You want me to do that all in my short amount of time here? That's a whole nother session. You know, they've talked about this in the outside team. Remember, you don't need all these resources at once. You will have them at different times. You don't need to have anybody on retainer. It is, at times you will need them for a particular purpose, use them, and then move on. But it's not anything you need to say, I gotta have this person all the time. Just understand that. And it will be at different levels depending on what your business is, what you actually need. So please be okay with that. Here's some sites. If you're looking for the international one, that's a site to go to. So I knew you were gonna ask that question. But the thing is that you have the resources here, Southwest Opportunity, all of them, they have data. Because that's how they base their grants off things and everything. So these are things you look at dealing with. This is Sandy's. But these are things you look at, resources kind of help you. And these are two things that nobody can help you with, luck and timing. So if you're a very unlucky person, well, it's been nice knowing you. And sometimes we jump into the market at the wrong time and we lose. Like a lot of people have jumped into the market in 2008 and then it collapsed. So a lot of those businesses went out immediately. It's just all about timing. But all the signs were there, but they didn't research it far enough. They only looked at their world. They didn't look at all this stuff that was dynamically going on.
Carl, Kathy asked, well, how do you know about all this stuff? One of the things that I see a lot of small businesses do is stay in their own little bubble. They're not involved in chamber activities or taking advantage of classes and so forth where you're getting out there to network. The more you're out there networking, even you know this because you've got, by you starting to do some of the new knowledges at the beginning and so forth, you were introduced to some people that could help you and introduce you to programs that can help your business versus if you're in your bubble. And I know there's only so many hours in a day, but there's some things that you need to take an investment in, and that is building your business. And it's not just, you need to look outside the box. And that's why some of these programs that are offered, you know, not just us, but all around this region, we have some great things going on. But unfortunately, if you're just staying in your own little shell, you don't know anything about it. Could be an incentive program, a short-term loan program available that you don't know about, that
And
could
the
work
thing
great
is-
for your business.
Yeah, and it's an excellent point, but like the new knowledge, it's a very good, it's something you learn, but at the same time, you're meeting other people that are kind of in the same arena you are. It's about developing the relationships.
It is the best thing.
Yeah, if more startups would
So
start
much.
working together, you would have a bigger impact quicker. Because you could work off each other, especially with social media and that. That's a huge tool, and that's when we talk about building strong teams. You have a strong team, you're very successful. And that could be a strong team internally, and it could be a strong team externally. And I cannot stress it enough. I can have a river outfitter, but I can have that river outfitter tied to a local restaurant. I can have it tied to a bed and breakfast. I could sit here and create a network like any tomorrow with all of you. And that's what you need to do when you're starting out. That's what gets your footprint out there quickly. People get to know you.
It really helped, in the challenges, because we've been in a few, is being able to like link on our website. That helps your search engine optimization because if somebody else links to. But our story with the Small Business Incubator was with the Lunch and Learns. And I haven't been able to go since I went back to work, be through in 3 weeks. But Mike and I really enjoyed them. But if you can't go, if you can watch them stream, and I could not go to the one about how to write a press release. And I sat in my office on my lunch hour and listened to it and did it. And I drafted out a press release and I sent it to Kathy to look at, and I sent it to somebody else, I can't remember who else it was, to look at and review it. And anyway, and then it was just, and I actually got the Abington Convention Bureau, Convention and Visitors Bureau, I'm tired, I've been up since 6, to send it out for me. Well, the long and the short, so like 4 days went by and I thought, yeah, this was a bust press release. But, and our business opened on May 9th and we did not have one call, nothing. So, that was on a Saturday. And then on the following Friday, that went out in the Kingsport Times News, and which was not even where we really cared about it going. And that phone started ringing, and it rang until September 8th. I mean, it rang all summer long. And that press release, I saw our press release in the Knoxville Herald, I saw it in Lynchburg, you know, all the different places. And all that came from how to write a press release from the Lunch and Learn thing. And, you know, it was just, I think it was the editor,
It was the editor publisher
That's
of
why
the
it's,
Bristol Home Carrier.
And so he talked about it, and I'm gonna use that again, because he said, if you all ever have an opportunity to go to those, he said, you know, if you wanna get good press, tie it into a charitable event. So I'm having a charitable event as I open this year, so I'll get more free press. But all that came from, you know, I would not have had that knowledge and that resource had we not made the decision just to come up there. And in doing so, that's how we learned about the challenges and everything.
Those are all archived on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and say, write in New Knowledge, and you can follow our channel. There's probably 40 New Knowledge workshops as of last week up there for you to access. And I'm proud to say we're the only group organization in the state of Virginia and East Tennessee and anywhere that's doing that. So there's
Yeah,
some
and make
great
sure you put
sessions.
in New Knowledge, not Lunch and Learn.
I know, I
because-
caught Lunch and Learn, I'm sorry.
But you won't find it if you'll find somebody else's if you put in Lunch and Learn.
Yeah,
Make
but
sure
the
you
other
put in
thing
New
is, you're
Knowledge.
trying to network and you're trying to figure out things.
Yeah.
You guys volunteer? Okay, volunteer at big galas and work the reception. You meet everybody. And you do 2 or 3 or 4 of those, and you'd be amazed how you see the same folks and you say, didn't I see you at, oh yeah, how you doing? And you start building the conversations. That's how you build strong network. Did it cost you a lot? No, it cost you the time to be there to volunteer.
And once a month, the chamber hosts a chamber breakfast at 7:30. There's another opportunity. You network with between 50 and 70 business people throughout Washington County. It's right there.
So that's what I'm saying. There are all kinds of ways to catch it.
And that was another thing too, you know, I didn't see, the brick and mortar, the chambers of commerce have been so, well, you know, they were very good to Adventure Mendota. And even chambers of commerce that we're not part of, will be joining because they were so good to us in Kingsport. They came out twice and kayaked with us,
Yeah.
just because they wanted to, not really for any other reason. But those things make such a huge difference if you know, because you just meet people and then they tell people about you, and it's just a positive experience if it trickles down.
It's not what you know till you know.
It is, and you know, networking, we all go to meetings where we think some people are more successful or their businesses are more successful than ours. But I can tell you, in general, most business owners still, I mean, they're there because they still want to network, they still want to learn, they still want, and so, you know, whether, how successful somebody is or how successful you deem that they are is really not what, you know, what those things are for. All those people are at those meetings because they want to network. You know, they're not there because they want to, you know, be seen.
Yeah.
7:30 in the morning, I can tell you for sure I don't want to be seen. But once a month, it's okay, you know, you have to give it up every once in a while.
And the new knowledge, I'm just keep talking, I'm sorry. And I'm really excited about that new knowledge, though. I wish everybody would take advantage of it. It's something, and I know, you know, if you work, it's hard to go. I haven't been to one since I started work, but if you're in your own business, if there's any way you can get to them, it's good. Like even our relationship that we have with Kevin Costello, we never even met him before, but he talked at one of our new knowledge sessions. And we developed a relationship with him, and so he actually spent a day and took us to an outfitter to look at. They really want you to succeed. You realize how badly everybody is, how they're pulling for you.
Yeah.
By the way,
no.
she's on paid, I just wanted to know,
Yeah.
she's not making a paid advertiser.
All economic development people in all of these counties, whether it's Washington, Smith, Russell, wherever, all of these economic development people, they want to find
It's your
people.
posse.
Yeah, they want to find people that they can, you know, lift up and help. That's what they're there for. They just want to. So, ask and ye shall receive.
And with that, does anybody have any other questions?
I'm sorry.
If not, thank you for your time.
6 o'clock here tomorrow night.